Well, look, they're going to continue to have some ups and downs. They're about to embark on a tough West Coast trip. They got Golden State, Sacramento, Phoenix, and Sacramento's been playing well lately. Phoenix and then the two LA teams. So it could be up and down, and you're going to have to work in KD again. So that's another adjustment. But what it does is show that Nick was spewing balderdash yesterday, hogwash, poppycock. He said they don't even have the capability of being an adequate defensive team. Now, nobody's saying they're going to be the bad boy Pistons, but if you hit the certain baseline as far as athleticism and strength, then at that point, it becomes all about effort, communication, and technique. And they showed last night with the proper communication and effort, they can be an adequate defensive team, which is really all they need to be with that offensive firepower. So, yeah, this is a step in the right direction, no doubt.
True.
That was uproarious. You know what the Nets are? You ever go to a driving range and you see a guy shank left and right 13 in a row and then hits one perfectly down the middle, and he really believes that's who I am. That guy, not the 13 prior, that guy. And then another dozen go breaking windshields in the parking lot. We saw this from the Nets a month ago. They held the Heat to 85 points, and it's like, oh, wow. Look, when they're locked in, when they're challenged, when their pride is questioned, we're going to see these defensive performances. Then they allowed 120-plus points in every single game they played until last night. Last night, they put it all together defensively for a half of basketball. They allowed 30 first-half points. They allowed 5 points in the final 8 minutes of the first half. Little golf clap. I'm happy for them. No, that's not even close to who they are. No, that's not the way they're going to win games. Brandon, they're not winning games 104-94. They don't even want to win games that way. They want to win games 134-124, and that's not sustainable. But good job last night. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for your Nets, Brandon, even though you don't care because it's not mid-March. But go ahead, Brandon.
That's right. That's right. My Nets. You guys cover basketball and love it. I am a fan of basketball, and I love playing basketball. But the reality is, basketball season doesn't start until mid-March. And I'm going to continue to say that. As a fan of basketball, I really don't lock in until mid-March. I am forced to cover basketball now because I get paid to do it. So a few things that stood out to me last night. Number one is what you said, Chris, is the defense and the effort in particular. When you think about the defense, like this is a middle-of-the-road type of defense. That's their capacity. And if you give effort, then you have an opportunity, and it was much better effort on the defensive side. The second thing that stood out to me was Landry Shamet and Joe Harris. Joe Harris is having a really good year compared to what he's done in the past. We know who this guy is, and he just seems so confident and so comfortable. And the other guy who I talked about was Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet, it reminds me of Tyler Hero in the bubble. Remember at the beginning, like this was a dude like taking shots, and we're like, why is he taking shots like that? And he wasn't making them, and then all of a sudden 20 here, 24, 25 in a 30-point game. That's who this kid reminds me of. He's starting to be comfortable. He only had 8 points, but I loved how confident he was when he was stroking it. And then the last thing is James Harden. We're not praising James Harden enough. He only had 19 points. He's having career lows all over the place, but this dude is sacrificing. For him to be able to sit there at the top, getting his guys in the game, playing defense. I mean, the other night he was guarding Blake Griffin. So I think we need to talk about him more because that was a big question. Can he do it? Who's going to be willing to sacrifice? And obviously it's him.
All right, let's move on. How about this? Giannis put up 47 and 11 for the Bucks. Still lost to the Suns despite that line. That's 4 dubs in a row for Phoenix. But Broussard, was last night more about the Bucks' loss or the Suns' win?
We know what the Bucks are. Giannis is going to fill up the stat sheet. He's a great all-around player, but they don't have a go-to superstar. Chris Middleton is their go-to guy. He's a go-to all-star, but Giannis isn't that guy, and we saw it last night. Was anybody surprised that he missed that shot at the end of the game? I'm glad they gave him the opportunity, but that's just not where he's at this point in his career yet. It was more about Phoenix. They've won 7 of 8. They've won 4 straight. And what you see is that Devin Booker and Chris Paul are getting comfortable playing with one another. Both of them have been great over the last month after, I wouldn't say a slow start, but just feeling each other out. When you have two dominant guards come together and play, it can take you a little while to get acclimated, and now they seem to be there. So, look, nobody's mistaking them for a championship contender. But the question is, can they be at the top of that second group with Utah, Denver, behind the two LA squads? And they're playing right now like they can, so good for the Phoenix Suns.
The weird part about the Bucks is that they're the opposite of the Nets. When it comes down to the end of the game, the Nets have too many people to take the last shot of the game. The Bucks don't have enough. And so Devin Booker after the game was like, yeah, we actually felt good about it. When it felt more incendiary when you saw the entire context. But he shot it, foul line extended, Nick. And he's a two-time MVP. You can't give him the ball at the end of the game. I don't remember another MVP since maybe Shaq in 2000, where at the end of the game, you actually have to avoid giving him to the ball if he's not posted down low.
Yeah, it's Shaq. Shaq's the comp for this, and it's not great for the Bucks, obviously. To me, the bigger story was not Giannis's miss. The bigger story was the point guard that the Bucks acquired this offseason. For this year, they'd have been better off acquiring the point guard that the Suns acquired this offseason. I understand why you want Jrue Holiday to grow with Giannis. I get it. He's younger. Giannis signs the extension, and you know he's going to sign it, so you trade for Holiday so they can have a 3-4 year run together. But for this season, if the Bucks had Chris Paul, he would be the guy at the end of games orchestrating. He would be the guy at the end of games taking these shots, and the Bucks would be the massive favorites in the Eastern Conference. That's not shade on Jrue, and it's not intentional shade on Giannis. It just speaks to how great Chris Paul is and what he's doing for Phoenix.